Imagine a president boldly sending troops into a state against its governor's wishes. Sounds like a plot from a thriller, right? But this is real, and it's sparking fierce debates about presidential power and state sovereignty. This unfolding drama pits President Trump's administration against Illinois officials in a high-stakes legal battle over deploying National Guard troops, raising questions that go straight to the heart of American governance. And this is the part most people miss. It's not just about troops. It's a clash between federal authority and local control. On October 17, 2025, the Trump administration petitioned the Supreme Court to intervene, urging it to overturn a lower court's block on sending National Guard members into Illinois. This move sets the stage for a major confrontation regarding the president's ability to deploy military forces over local objections. The Justice Department filed an urgent request for emergency relief, asking the High Court to suspend a U.S. District Court ruling that prevented the administration from federalizing and deploying these troops within Illinois. Just the day before, on Thursday, a U.S. appeals court reinforced the lower court's stance on the deployment, but permitted the Guard to stay under federal command during ongoing legal fights. In this request, Solicitor General D. John Sauer contended that the district judge's order directly undermines the president's constitutional role as commander-in-chief. He explained that blocking the deployment eviscerates President Trump's choice to bring 300 Illinois National Guard members under federal control to safeguard federal immigration officers and government assets. The president also federalized around 400 Texas Guard troops to support operations in the Chicago region. But here's where it gets controversial. Is this a necessary protection or an overreach of power? Sauer emphasized that without these troops, Department of Homeland Security personnel lose the safety measures the president intended amid persistent unrest. It also hinders the Guard's role in upholding federal laws, putting lives and property at risk. Furthermore, he argued it inappropriately positions the Seventh Circuit Court in charge of military decisions, effectively allowing judges to dictate which forces the president can use, a situation Sauer called untenable. President Trump relied on Title 10 of the U.S. Code, a federal law that empowers the president to activate state National Guard units into active-duty federal service under specific conditions. To put this in simple terms for beginners, Title 10 is like a legal tool the president can use when there's a threat to national stability, such as a rebellion, or when regular military forces aren't enough to enforce laws. It's designed for emergencies, where the federal government needs extra muscle to maintain order. The administration claims that protests in cities like Chicago meet these criteria, justifying the use of Title 10. In Illinois, officials point to violence and the constant threat of violence that have strained routine federal law enforcement efforts, making it hard to fully implement immigration laws and protect officers from assaults and obstructions. They further assert that recent attacks on federal authorities and property in Illinois amount to a rebellion or danger of rebellion, a serious accusation that implies the situation has escalated beyond peaceful dissent. This is the controversial twist that could divide opinions. Are these protests truly a rebellion, or is the administration stretching the definition to justify military intervention? President Trump had been warning for weeks about escalating tensions outside an immigrant detention processing facility in Broadview, a Chicago suburb. Then in early October, he declared the Chicago area unsafe for federal operations and invoked his authority to federalize Illinois Guard members. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker strongly opposed this, labeling it un-American to force a governor to deploy troops within state borders against their will. On Friday, he posted on X, formerly Twitter, that Illinois remains committed to upholding its state sovereignty and will continue defending it. The state of Illinois and Chicago filed lawsuits challenging the federalization as illegal, while the Trump administration maintains that courts lack the jurisdiction to scrutinize the president's action. U.S. District Judge April Perry ruled in favor of the state earlier this month, deeming the Department of Homeland Security's evaluation of Chicago events unreliable. Subsequently, a 3-judge panel from the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit issued a temporary injunction halting troop deployment in Illinois, though they allowed federal control to persist. Their Thursday decision, unanimous and unsigned, upheld this approach, stating that the facts do not justify Trump's actions there. The judges noted that while protesters have been spirited, sustained, and occasionally violent in opposing the administration's immigration policies, this alone doesn't constitute a danger of rebellion against government authority. They also pointed out that federal facilities, including the Broadview Center, have stayed operational despite the demonstrations, with disruptions managed effectively by local, state, and federal responders. And here's another layer of intrigue. This isn't isolated to Illinois. Immigration policy disputes have prompted President Trump to federalize and deploy guard troops in other locations, such as Los Angeles, Portland, and Memphis. For instance, a federal appeals court recently permitted the deployment of about 4,000 California National Guard members to Los Angeles and is considering a request for troops in Portland. Trump has also stationed guard forces in Washington, D.C., and threatened actions in cities like Baltimore and San Francisco. What do you think? Does this represent a bold defense of federal power in turbulent times, or a dangerous erosion of state rights? Share your views in the comments. Do you agree with the administration's stance, side with the courts and Illinois officials, or see a middle ground? Let's discuss.